of the PBS miniseries. So instead of 6 hours of content, right now at 51 episodes, we've got about 4.5 hours of content, but we're going to have 120 episodes produced by the end of 2016. 120. That's almost 6.5 hours, 7 hours of content, I believe, for you to watch and to search by subject matter. But the 12 original series are The Inside Story, which is about amazing characters revealing their mental health journeys. We have a series dedicated to veterans called The Journey Home. Powerful stuff.
Very powerful stuff.
And we have one called Critical Years, young adults dealing with their mental health challenges, which is a unique subset that has been neglected.
Yeah,
you know?
Kids are huge. I've done several stories on just those challenges, which are unique to young people for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is they don't get to control in most situations what happens to them or how it's dealt with once it does happen to them.
That's right. And, happens all too often. And we know that most major mental illnesses manifest between about 13 and 25 years of age.
Yeah, it's tough stuff.
So they really need it. And, I mean, when you put it in that perspective, it's hard enough being a teenager, right? Then you add it's emotionally and mentally difficult for anyone with a healthy brain, right?
Exactly.
But then you throw in a disorder or an illness on top of it, it's debilitating. People become suicidal. We've got to change that.
Yeah, indeed. And along that line, with respect to the channel offerings, you've got a couple of series with brain in the title. One deals with sort of the neuroscience aspect, and the other one deals with the brain as kids grow up, right?
That's right. Yeah, and so the Dr. Brain is our series which features cutting-edge folks talking about brain science and treatment. And we've partnered with BigThink.com. They've got about 5 million subscribers. It's kind of like TED. They're out of Manhattan. And we partnered with them to co-produce a series called Big Thinkers on Mental Health. And we're getting, Dr. Ensel, Dr. Fuller, Torrey, we're getting every side of every major issue, again, even for archival purposes, right? Because it could be 30 years down the road, we're not talking about this as much. They may need to go back and remember what it was like.
Absolutely. It's good to have that preserved in a way that people are going to have access to.
The Developing Brain is children's mental health, which is really like neonatal to about 13, 14, because there's been no funding for the adolescent children's brain. I mean, it's just now happening. I mean, it just was. We know very, very little. We got to change that. The biggest need in medicine is still pediatric psychiatry. No one wants to enter it. Yeah. We've got to change that. But see, I'm getting on my soapbox. But even back our series, then we have another one is The Common Good, which we feature communities and unexpected communities coming together to improve their mental health. We have Family Portrait because every family's been touched. And, if someone has a mental illness in your family, it's the other family members that carry the weight, typically.
It's tough.
It's tough. And
which in turn can cause issues for those other family members.
Correct.
The stress
Caregivers
of dealing with.
have to be careful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we have the student films, which are right now are just coming from our university courses I described. But think of that as a university student. You can take this course, and if it's good enough, you get your film distributed to millions of people on MHC. It's like being published back in the day before you graduate.
Yep. It's a wonderful
and we also
opportunity.
mentor those students. The ones that we select that we have are high quality enough and the right storytelling sensibility. We bring them into the office and they sit down with actual working veterans, shaping, telling them why to do this. And as I said, several people have decided to make social issue-based documentaries. They're major,
That's phenomenal.
Because, and particularly with this changing landscape in entertainment media, there's going to be more opportunities. It's not the traditional just Sundance or red carpet stuff,
Yeah, and that indeed, I think, is going to allow that sensibility and attunement into these issues and the expertise in telling these stories to filter out through other media outlets and formats throughout society and get that momentum going that you were talking about to get the culture reset in terms of how we think about these issues, no?
Right. We got to get them a base vocabulary and just recognize this affects them whether they like it or not.
Yeah. And I think, and I say this to people all the time, and you alluded to this a moment ago about which statistic that you buy into or want to quote, right. 1 in 4, 1 in 5. My view is everybody is affected.
That's right.
Everybody is affected because whether it's you or a family member, if you're, as you said, if you're a teacher, the students, if you're a cop, the people that you come in contact with, if no matter what you do, the people that you're in contact with at some level, whether it be family or further out, and understanding what that is can only be an asset to doing whatever it is you're doing. Right.
And would you rather hear that in a psychiatrist's office or on the privacy of your home with your iMac or other laptop, and watch and learn?
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing.
Yeah. And not to say that there's not room, and certainly there's plenty of room for expert help, psychiatrists, psychologists, marriage family therapists.
And we're giving them on that platform too. It is important.
Yeah, it is important. But certainly there's a lot of things, and I had this discussion just today in an earlier interview with a Harvard Medical School faculty member who is a psychiatrist. The idea that people should have some resources so we can do as much as we can. And then we need to go to the professional, like, you don't do your own wiring in your house. If you're not an electrician, it's not a good idea. You can change a light bulb. You can even, maybe change out a faceplate. But when it comes to the heavy lifting, you've gone as far as you can go. And then it's okay and recommended to go find some help.
That's right. That is absolutely right. And, finding help is a show of strength and courage. And but you're right. The point is a little bit of information goes a long way.
Yeah.
And mental health, almost more than most other subject matters. I mean, it's astounding. We get bombarded with the bad news, the bad news, the bad news. Well, the good news is we're talking about diseases, most of which are highly treatable.
Yep. Yep. The recovery rate and success rate, for example, as you were talking about earlier, with depression, the numbers are somewhere, and I'm not the expert on this,
about
but they're
80%.
75-80% recovery.
Yeah. That's higher than cancer or cardiovascular disease combined.
You beat me to it. Yes.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Well, we're working from the same script.
I know, right? All right. You got to talk about my favorite on the channel, the comedy.
That's how I'm getting to that. But I'm going to continue on what we're... at its essence, like I said, Mental Health Channel is a hope dispenser. And also, kind of one of our, not spoken taglines is we're taking the boogeyman out of mental health.
Yeah, I love that. I think you should speak that tagline. I like that.
Yeah, well, because that's what it is. Because what we're talking behind fear is discrimination.
Yeah.
This stigma, and that's why we don't necessarily like stigma. This is our belief is that